Thanks for joining us for today's News at Noon. I'm Drew Carney, and we begin this afternoon's newscast in New York, where closing arguments are underway in the hush money trial of former President Donald Trump. NBC's Jay Gray brings us the latest on this landmark case from outside the courthouse.
Well, the final words in this high-profile, high-stakes case are beginning here today, and much to the frustration of the former president, it's his defense team that will speak with the jury first. The closing arguments for the defense will center on a lot of things they say just don't add up in this case. And most importantly, they say the testimony of former Trump attorney and confidant Michael Cohen, who they say is a convicted liar with an agenda against the former president. They'll be looking to discredit his testimony, which is at the heart of this case. As for prosecutors, they are expected to meticulously go through the evidence in this case, and they say that all of that evidence makes it clear that the president was not only committing fraud, but doing so to hide this from the voters, an affair with Stormy Daniels that to this day he says did not occur. What to look for today in the courtroom? Look for the defense to take about two and a half hours, they've told the judge, to present their closing arguments. And prosecutors say that they will spend 4 to 4.5 hours with the jury. Now, that could push things into tomorrow morning. If the jury decides to go home on its regular schedule, the judge has given them the option of staying late to finish up closing arguments today. And certainly that's what the defense team wants. They're going to kind of move through theirs rather quickly so that they don't allow the prosecution to not only get the last word today, but come back tomorrow when the jurors are fresh in court and going to begin their deliberations to have one last word. So again, the former president very frustrated that the defense is not going last when it comes to these closing arguments, but that's New York law. That's the way it's always been, and that's the way this trial will proceed. We know that time is not limited on either team, so they could go longer if they choose to. This will be followed tomorrow likely by jury instructions, and then this case will go to the jury. It will be in their hands. That's the latest right now outside the courthouse here in Lower Manhattan. I'm Jay Gray. Back to you.
Again, Jay Gray reporting for us from New York City. Here's another developing story we're following this afternoon. The Seattle Kraken have officially named a new head coach to replace Dave Haxtell. Dan Bylsma will take over behind the Kraken bench. He got his first break as an NHL head coach 16 years ago with the Pittsburgh Penguins, immediately leading them to a Stanley Cup championship. Bylsma spent the past 2 seasons as head coach of the Coachella Valley Firebirds. That's the Kraken's AHL minor league affiliate. And a reminder that KGW is the official TV partner of the Seattle Kraken here in Portland. We'll be airing more than 70 games this upcoming season on our free over-the-air signal. We have a couple of local updates to share here. First off, Portland police tell us they found the 90-year-old man who went missing yesterday afternoon in the Brentwood-Darlington neighborhood of southeast Portland. We told you about the man this morning on our Sunrise show, and there were added concerns because police say he has dementia. But again, officials say he's safe this afternoon. And in Southwest Washington, the State Department of Transportation has closed the northbound lane of I-5 in La Center today for a bridge inspection. Maintenance crews expect to have their work on the East Fork Lewis River Bridge wrapped up here sometime in the next hour. Before we get to some other local news headlines this afternoon, how about a check-in with Rod Hill standing by in the Weather Center. What's up there, Rod?
Well, for some it's been a rainy morning with fairly steady rain. For others it's been a little drip here and a little drip there. The radar behind me. I will tell you there are areas picking up some at least drizzle that the radar is not really indicating. We can see from our camera reports from Astoria all the way down into Newport. It is in fact raining, and we know we've had some rain pass over downtown Portland. So what's in the gauge? Well, so far today since midnight, 19/100ths in Astoria, Tillamook 14/100ths. The zeros represent no more than a trace in Portland and Salem. Kelso Longview area 4/100ths of an inch of rain, and the airport up in Kelso. You can see the raindrops from our Cannon Beach camera where it's 52 degrees. You can see the raindrops on the lens. This is the inn at Ottercrest down in Lincoln County. So just as wet down along the central beaches. And if you look carefully, Yeah, again, there's been a little twitch of moisture in the air, but so far not much. PDX is reporting some moisture out along the Columbia River. We've warmed a little bit. We're at 61. I see the afternoon through at least 4 o'clock a continued chance of some light rain at times, and temperatures won't do much, 63 or 64 at 4 o'clock. This is actually the rainiest day potentially until Sunday, although it's not really that wet. Back to you.
All right, Rod, we'll have more from you coming up here in about 10 minutes. We're hearing from firefighters in Clark County who were at the scene of a crash where a Good Samaritan was hit and killed by another driver. Fire crews say 42-year-old Jessica Blindbury and her husband stopped Friday night along I-5 north of Ridgefield to help someone who had crashed into a guardrail. Fire crews were there too, but as they were packing up to leave the crash scene, they say a pickup truck veered into the closed-off lane, collided with one of their fire trucks, and then hit and killed Blindbury. Her husband was also hit and remains in critical condition.
Our truck was in the right position, the way it's supposed to be, to protect the scene as much as we can. And our battalion chief was back a quarter of a mile with their lights on, with their indicator arrow on, trying to get people to move over.
44-year-old Guadalupe Munoz was arrested and charged with vehicular homicide and vehicular assault. Police in Forest Grove say they arrested a man in connection with a series of slingshot attacks that date back to last fall. KGW's Catherine Cook spoke to a woman who says her car was damaged by one of those attacks.
It hit right about here. Obviously, the window's been replaced.
Cameron Von Clevenger is thankful no one was hurt after an incident that left her back driver's side window shattered.
The object actually came through the shade that I have in the car.
Forest Grove police say that object was a ball bearing launched through Von Clevenger's window with a slingshot.
Yeah, scary.
It happened Wednesday night at Southwest Pacific Avenue and E Street in Forest Grove.
It was about 10 p.m. and we heard a loud crash, and I couldn't really understand or figure out what happened.
On Friday night, police executed a plan. It led them to this same spot at E Street and Pacific. Around 10:30 that night, police arrested the suspect, 28-year-old Caleb Spurlock of Forest Grove. When they searched him, police found a slingshot and container of ball bearings. They also learned Spurlock had hit a passing vehicle with a ball bearing just minutes before his arrest. Police had been working this case since October. That's when they got their first report of a broken window on this stretch of road. Since then, they say 12 victims have reported damaged vehicles.
I know a lot of my friends and neighbors have been just kind of concerned, and everyone's sharing on social media, like, don't drive here at night.
Cameron is relieved now and a little surprised. She assumed the person responsible had been a kid trying to pull a prank.
Finding out it was a 28-year-old man was a little bit of a bummer for sure. Just to think that an adult is out there doing this kind of stuff.
An adult now facing adult charges. Spurlock was booked into the Washington County Jail on criminal mischief, unlawful use of a weapon, reckless endangering, and assault.
Nice to know that it's been remedied for now.
In Forest Grove, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
It's been a few weeks since the Portland Police Bike Squad expanded its patrols, so we wanted to check in on how things are going downtown. The squad's primary responsibility is to stop the rash of drug dealing that's taken over several spots downtown. This video is from this past weekend when Portland officers, along with Oregon State Police, arrested suspected drug dealers at gunpoint in 2 different spots, in the South Park blocks and also in Old Town.
So we had a really good weekend, multiple drug dealing arrests, we recovered firearms, drugs, fentanyl. We've kind of spread out. We're essentially all over downtown now, and we hope to continue these efforts as the summer keeps going.
The bike squad's approach will change in September when a new law goes into effect that recriminalizes the possession of small amounts of drugs. In some cases, people will have the option to go to treatment to avoid jail time, but police tell us they're still trying to figure out the exact details on how enforcement will work with that new law.